Yes, indeed.
Oh, no!
Good morning, Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't. Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
I ain't one yet. This is insane.
Thank you, folks. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your coming and joining me on this adventure this Sunday morning, the 23rd of Janvier, 4:29 a.m. Eastern Time. And yes, it's a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Existence Part 2, Sound and Fury, 23 January 22, title of the show. I put up the first chat. What is it exactly that you think you are doing here or there or anywhere? Think about that. Think about that.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Well, that's one of the things. I don't know if you heard that slurp or not. Slurping coffee is a thing we do. We philosophers who cannot get comfortable and who are tethered to headphones, and I can't even adjust my chair. Man. Okay. You have no idea. What the? Oh, man.
Really funny. Really funny.
You know. All right. You know, it's for those of you who tuned in for part 2 of a serious topic. That's a hell of a way to begin a show. Falling off a chair. At least the headphones, the wire didn't break, and at least of whatever. I hurt my hand. Existence. Part 2. It's 4:31 on a Sunday. We probably shouldn't see too many coal trucks, but there probably will be some overtimers heading up to the coal-fired electric plants that feed those electric cars. I pulled something in my back even. I don't know. It's crazy. I always like to give you little tidbits left over from my days in the advertising business, marketing and all that. Black on yellow is the best way to have something visible to a person. That's why in the very old days, they used to have a thing called the yellow pages, and the yellow pages were yellow paper with black ink on them. And the smart people who made billboards always had yellow in the background and black ink on the top. And it was amazing while this was commonly known, right, among people in the industry, how few people within the industry actually understood that that was from a human being's perception standpoint. that stood out the most and was most likely to be read. And I say that for two reasons. One, to give you just this random advice of things that people just simply aren't aware of anymore. But two, to show how people don't know things that they should know, particularly people in certain professions, and just a level of general ignorance out there, and how people who pay attention and know certain things have power or wield power over other people, other individuals. And it has nothing to do with money, or anything of that nature. It's not magical. It's not, it's just knowledge. It's just knowledge, and using that knowledge for whatever means, are necessary to get across your message, right? Or whatever whatever purpose you have to communicate. So it's very telling, a simple thing like that is just very telling and exemplary, whatever. Again, it's 4:35 a.m. and I have only had one or two sips out of my coffee. Here goes the third. I actually pulled something on the left side of my back, which probably is going to turn into some massive growing pain. Can't believe that. I the chair, because I was tethered with this thing, which is my headphone wire, because I'm not using wireless headphones, because they would probably cause a buzz on the broadcast if I used a Bluetooth headphone, which I don't own anyway. And again, by the way, when I'm looking down like this, I am pouring coffee, or sometimes bending down, I'm drinking that coffee. Coffee's still hot at this juncture. And so we begin. The weather here has gotten considerably warmer. And by that I mean it's 25 degrees, so Fahrenheit. So we're only 7 degrees below freezing. I noticed in the plant room that things were, yesterday it got down to freezing in the main room, but my closet off to the side, it's a very small space. I've shown it before on this program. I'll show it again in the future, not today. Today there's an 80% chance of flurries, high of 28, low of 14. Tomorrow, 60% chance of flurries, high of 30, low of 27. My back is killing me. Tuesday, I heard something. 40% chance of flurries, 30 for the high, and then we're going to get back into 3 degrees for the low. Remember there used to be a band in the 70s called the 3 Degrees? And then Wednesday, it might be cloudy, partly sunny, whatever, half glass full, half empty. 18 degrees and 0 for the low, and the longer-term Thursday forecast is 30 and 21. So basically, we're going to remain below freezing, and then off and on, we're going to approach the 0 Fahrenheit level, which I'm all for. That gives me 5 days of not having to deal with water leaking in my attic. What's good for the geese is good for the gander. Something like that, right? I don't know. My back is hurting me.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
No, you don't get it. It's...
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah. Oh, man. That was a weird. I mean, that'd be great to rewatch that whole spill I took. It's like I stretched, pulled a muscle, or did something weird, on the left side of my back. Imagine a freak accident like that where you like disconnected like a key blood vessel that leads to your heart. Like in the course of this thing, I'll just start. Death on air. This is the last song we'll ever do. David Bowie. How many concerts did he end with that? Farewell. This is the last show we'll ever do. So it was Faulkner who made the Shakespeare quote on the screen more famous than Shakespeare did, at least in the 20th century. Life is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. And it was the Faulkner reference that I was more inspired by as I laid in bed this morning before I woke up, and I knew that was going to be on the title card of today's program. And think about it, what is it that we're doing, right? Think about your life. I put in my book, those things that I bring up from time to time. The sheet, the simple sheet that like anyone could do, and it's no great. Is this a book? Yeah. It's a simple, very simple page. I've talked about it in the past. I may have put it even in other books. Very simple, complex. Likes and dislikes. Things that make you happy, things that make you unhappy, right? This and some other reasons are why I encourage you to get the print version of this book. But it's the idea is that, you have to examine your life, what you're doing. You don't have to do anything. But if you're the slightest bit interested in, in succeeding in life, if you're the type of person that, is grooming yourself for success, or if you just want to have peace of mind and just, be at peace. The people who live the longest, countless studies have been done. And like the most common thing among them is that they've lived a life basically of calm. They've been somewhat at peace. They didn't get worked up, right? Or they were, or the point of extreme happiness, joviality, laughter. A good guffaw like yesterday, and, the tattoo picked up and put out there too, of mine, of the guffaw. I'm sorry, this back thing. It's kind of weird. I don't know what do they call it? Wrench something, pulled some weird thing, some muscle. I don't know what happened. Just add another thing to the list, okay? Just add another thing to the list. Yeah. See what that thing compounds into. Right? Disconnect some kind of tube from a kidney or something. Internal bleeding. Did you have any recent falls or spills or some odd kind of thing occur? Yeah, I was doing a podcast, my morning vlog, and I was trying to adjust my chair, and somehow some ridiculous, crazy thing occurred. Doc. But, I wanted to continue this. The reason I'm calling this part 2 is because we touched on it in part 1. And it was the idea that our whole lives seem to be surrounded by stories and storytelling, right? And we watch. Right? It's like in that show, The Fringe, which I'm watching right now, but this has nothing to do with this show. It's the idea of the watchers. They call them, I think they call the guys, the bald-headed guys, the watchers. And, of course, there's some biblical references to the watchers, But, we watch. Ourselves. That's who we are, the watchers. We watch Netflix. Ozark is back on Netflix now. I haven't started to watch it because I'm watching Fringe, and I just finished season 1. Took me the whole week, of so-called binge watching, but I wasn't really binge watching. I was just watching a few episodes a day or so. But it took like over about a week, which was good. And there's like 6 seasons, so that means I have I can watch that for, a long time. Month and a half. That's all I need to watch if I want to. And then I've got Ozark and, on deck. And heck, by that time, maybe HBO Max might have the new Westworld out. And who knows what other stuff might have some new episodes. So I become a watcher. Because I don't watch the news, obviously. And like I said, I've gotten bored with the YouTube millionaires that I used to watch. Right? Because it's hard to watch these people who started out, in some kind of tiny house. We're just a couple. Come along with us for our journey. We're just trying to live off grid and get by and this, that, the other, right? And a year or 2 or 3 later, they've got a McMansion. And they're making so much money. As a one couple, I can't. I mean, I still turn them on for a little while here and there, but I just can't do it. Our show's sponsored today by such and such, and you can get $130 off your first order. $130 off your first order. Man, I can't even spend $30 on a thing, let alone something that you would be getting $130 off. Imagine what it cost. And it's some kind of box, delivered to you of food or something. Make your meal preparations easier. You got to be freaking kidding me. That's like when you see this thing, you get something in the mail, and it's like $200 off your purchase. I'm going, $200 off? What the heck? I would, if the thing itself cost $200, maybe I would consider it if it's some major thing or something, but you got to be kidding me. If it's $200 off, it must be cost a couple of grand, or close to it. People are totally out of touch with reality of how most people live. That may include you, the viewer here. The random viewer. I'm telling you, more than half the country is just barely getting by. They're just barely getting by. And, and they'll continue to. I was at the store yesterday. I was at 3 stores yesterday. Do you ever see that store they have called Five Below that they opened up, I don't know, several years ago? And so it was like upscale version of like the dollar stores, which we'll get to in a second. So I was there too. And originally it was like five, like as in a $5 or $5 and below. Five Below. And of course, there were items in there, $25, So the name no longer means anything. And inflation is like totally out of control. And there were very few things that were even approached, were below $5 in that store. In fact, most things to me were like above $5. And then next to that store in this little shopping plaza, it's like a Walmart shopping plaza. That was the purpose of my, adventure yesterday. To go to Walmart because they have cheaper things, cheaper versions of things I usually get at the supermarket. And plus things I could be assured to get, such as a case of bottled spring water, which when I try to order and have delivered to my house, usually the Instacart person pretends it's out of stock. When it's not out of stock, they just don't want to carry that heavy thing. But anyway, so I go to the Dollar Tree next door. Now, the difference between Dollar General and Dollar Tree, to scratch my eye. I know it looks weird, but nonetheless. The difference between Dollar Tree and Dollar General and other kind of dollar type stores was that the Dollar Tree was everything's $1. That was the thing. Everything's $1. So if you bought 12 items, you checked out and it was $12. Taxable items, obviously. Depending on the state, they state sales tax. So I noticed yesterday, because I had heard this rumor, it's been going around now for a while, that the Dollar Tree was going to raise their price to $1.25. And sure enough, the things that I wanted, right, were now $1.25. Now you still might say, well, it's $1.25. What kind of cheapskate are you? Hey, I'm on a budget, man. And it's just the principle of the matter. If I buy 4 items that used to be $1 and they're now $1.25, I just spent $5 instead of $4. Okay? So that's the difference. That dollar could have went towards, gas. That dollar I could have given to someone. Right? $1 could have been in the old days a little bag of treats for my cat. You understand? That's inflation. But you got to think about that inflation now. So we looked at Five Below, and they had actually a lot of items in there for $25. Particularly, they had this turntable that I had seen a review on TV, or on YouTube TV. I guess you could call it. Not YouTube TV, as in YouTube does have a thing called YouTube TV, but YouTube is on my TV, YouTube the app. And I've been thinking about getting back into having a turntable because I don't have that anymore. And it was fun, and I talked about it on a previous show, how cool it was, the albums. And I saw this audiophile guy who's like real arrogant and thinks he knows it all. One of those type of goofballs, that has a channel that just practically everything he says and the way he says it and everything coming out of his mouth is like, he's as if he knows it all, and everything he has is better, and everything is like subpar, right? And so he went to Five Below and he bought one of these $25 turntables. Now, I don't know if at the time when he bought it, it was up to 25 or not. And he played his records on it, reviewed it, and of course was trying at every turn, trying to criticize it. And this is plastic and this. And then he eventually took it apart, to see what was inside of it and stuff. But the thing is, he couldn't help but at the end of it, reviewing it, saying it was a half-decent turntable, and that its only real downfall was that it had built-in speakers, but he even had to admit that the sound coming out of it as a standalone turntable was good, was decent quality, and it would be good first turntable, say, for somebody who just wanted to have, a turntable on top of a shelf and play some of their old records. Right. Wasn't really into complete madness like a guy like me. And he was saying it was like better than the comparable Crosley version. I think most people by now, if you're into old radios or retro-y type of thing, you know the name Crosley. They have those things that look like old-time radios or old-time record players. It's called the Crosley brand. And the stuff usually is kind of junk. So anyway, that was my Five Below. So Five Below was hardly Five Below anymore. Okay? I mean, how do you justify having a $25 item in a Five Below? In a store that's Five Below? I could, And then you go into the Dollar Tree, which is everything's $1, and now it's $1.25. Now you have to understand about inflation. If something goes from $1 to $1.25, all right, that's a considerable increase. All right? Right? In other words, if you double the price, if you have something that's $1 and now it costs $2, right? That's 100% increase. So we're talking about 25% inflation at the Dollar Tree. This isn't like them saying, "Oh, there's 6% inflation." And the same, at a Five Below, you go from $5 to $25. Okay? That's 5 times, what you were saying your price of a thing would be in a store. Okay? That's a 500% inflation. All right, so that's that. I did get a few things at $1. I didn't get it. I was with someone. We didn't get anything at Five Below because it just didn't seem worth it. It's like a very well put together store. It's reminiscent of a boutique-y type of thing. They've got music playing and everything is very well presented and packaged and rolled up and shelved properly and stuff. It's inviting, and they have some neat items in there. But I mean, make no mistake about it, it's like an upscale store. But anyway, so go to the Dollar Tree. I spent about $12 there, and I got a few things that I needed. Basics, Dollar Tree type of stuff. Just pay it a little bit more. Throw that in the car, go into Walmart now to get the stuff I really wanted. Some discounted toilet paper, Lysol, paper towels, some stuff like that. And as I'm walking down the aisle, I pass the electronics area, and there at the end of the aisle it stands out to me as I see the record, the LP, the album, Fleetwood Mac's Rumors album. The record. Okay? In plastic, shrink wrap. And then next to it, I see stuff like Beatles 1, number ones, and a couple of other classic records, albums. But they're like expensive, like $20. And then look down below, and then they had Crosley. They had like a $25 or $29.95 Crosley turntable. And to the left of it, a Crosley, I think it was another Crosley, but it was like a $50 type of turntable. I didn't bother picking it up because I didn't have that kind of money to buy it. Because quite frankly, what I would have probably done if I had, in days of old, right, if I would have had like $100 to spend, I probably would have went back over to Five Below, grabbed the $25 turntable, and I would have probably grabbed like 2 or 3 albums, like the Fleetwood Mac album and maybe a couple of others if they had them. Because I've been wanting to get back into the record thing, right? Because that was some other stuff I lost in that, disaster building story that you'd have to go back to last year's videos to hear about. I don't even want to think about it. I had classic album. I had literally a box of albums there, classics. Some of them worth a fortune. Some of them the colored discs. If you know anything about records, right? They weren't the black record. In other words, it was like they were colored, like red, yellow, stuff like that. Collector's items. Of course, I didn't have the money. Wasn't it a coincidence, though? So they're pushing that now. So records. And after the fact, I thought about it, and I go, $20, that's ridiculous. And I think the Beatles record was like $30. But when albums first came out years ago, and few people remember this, you used to pay like, that was what it was. It was like $19.95 if you would go to, Tower Records or something. Unless you were on the discount racks type of thing, or something was on sale. And then eventually records came down in price to somewhere around $12. I think the lowest records ever got was like $9.95 towards the end, and then of course it's thrift stores, but people have gone through the thrift stores like crazy, and now all that stuff's selling on eBay. That's the gig economy. They ruin like the Salvation Army and whatever that other thrift store chain is. It was intended where wealthy people or any regular folks like ourselves, we have stuff laying around the house that we could go there and donate it to them. And the hope was that they would take that stuff, make it available at a very cheap price so that a poor person could have a thing that they normally couldn't buy. And instead, if you ever pass a thrift store today, right? I know this seems a little off topic, but it's not really.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
That the car lot is filled, and the type of people in there, if you look, and I haven't been in a while, but because it made me sick to my stomach. They were people just swooping up all of these things, en masse of a certain items, and you knew that that's what they were doing. Reselling it on eBay or one of these, there's a bunch of sites now that they have apps on phones now. A Facebook Marketplace, I think, is like the go-to place for a lot of people now. And that's, it just sickens me to my stomach that something designed for, a good purpose, right? I feel a sneeze coming on. I don't know if that's going to do it or not. And so that got ruined, you know. So now you're lucky if you could go in there and find some kind of, you know, bent fork, you know. Yeah, it's too bad. But back to this idea, and this is all part of this. So, you know, we're in this hyperinflation time. People are accumulating all of these material things. And I'm sitting here talking myself saying, if I had the money, I think I'd get a record player and some albums, you know, that'd be like a fun thing to have. You know, but in reality, you know, it's just as well I don't have the extra money, you know, or credit on my credit card, because how much would I really use that? And it would just be another thing, right, to accumulate and to collect dust. Even if it's used, it collects dust, you know. Everything in your house, the amount of dust. I look at my bedroom and the amount of times I have to dust that place. You know, I mean, and I keep the door closed. It's wintertime. The windows are sealed. The door is kept closed. Right? I go in there. I don't even wear shoes. You know, I take my shoes off outside of my bedroom. I go in there and I have, you know, I come in out of a shower clean, or I have clean clothes and, you know, wash my pillowcases and stuff. And yet the room and my nightstand and stuff and these things collect with dust all the time. And I know they say like a lot of dust, and this sounds gross to people, is like human, you know, it's basically like human shedding and stuff like that. It's sick. But I mean, no, this is dust and stuff. It's more than that, you know? And I guess especially since it's a clean room, and I usually go in to my bedroom in a cleaned state, you know? You know, it's the cleanest room in my house, technically. Though they say your bathroom is even cleaner than your kitchen, right? People don't realize that, but technically, I mean, someone who keeps their, you know, disinfects and keeps their showers and sinks and toilets and stuff clean, you know, your bathroom tends to be almost more cleaner than your kitchen. Because your kitchen is a place that's constantly, you know, you're walking through, bringing in groceries, you know, doing this, that, the other. Okay, so enough, but that deals with it. Okay, so we were collecting these things, whatever. But back to existence, and that's part of it. This is existence part 2. So we exist. And part of our existence is the accumulation of things, right, in this society. Now, we have to procure certain provisions because of our, you know, need to survive. So, you know, it's one of the, you know, there was a line by a guy, a comedian. I can't think of his name. I think his first name's David. He said a line on the thing, and this is like a little off color and stuff. But he was talking about something, and he said, and like I say, you're not going to like this, but it's just so to the point. It's the best way to express it. He was talking about, you know, I don't know if it had to do with the disease or getting old or something weird like that. I just don't want to become a piss and shit machine factory, piss and shit factory. I know that's gross, and it's hardcore, and it's crude. All right? And it's like, you know, the reference to almost like people in a nursing home, right? They feed them, right? Give them a sponge bath, right? And so what have they become? right? And I'm only going to say it one more time. I won't repeat it again. They become piss and shit factories. Is that what life's all about? And is that how you're supposed to spend? And there's some people who go into a nursing home in their 80s and they're in there for almost 10 years because, they're kept, with IV and certain drugs and stuff and kept alive because, there's money to be made, by the owners of these institutions, right? And they'll keep these people alive, but they're nothing more than what I mentioned before. I'm not going to say that again, so don't worry. But in reality, what are we, even though they're warehoused in there, which I think is one of the most sad and pathetic things that our society does, right? I mean, it ranks up there with, with wars for no purpose, right? Wars for mass destruction, like this Ukrainian war that we're on the verge of, right? Look, Eastern Ukraine is Russia. They're Russians. They want to be Russians. They've been Russians. They speak Russian, and they want to be a part of Russia. It's just like Crimea was. Okay, so who are we to tell a Russian that you can't be a Russian and call it Soviet aggression? There is no Soviet Union or Russian aggression. It's not Russian aggression. It's Russia basically coming to the aid of their own people. Do you see? Because, when these lines of delineation, when we look at these, I don't have one currently, weather map. I mean, I do. I have one from 2 days ago. Let me just put up a map. I'm going to just do this because I'm tired I don't want to show something and have to constantly qualify it as this is from 2 days ago. So it's not today. Right? So I'm going to download a thing here for you just to make a point. So it's a minor point, but nonetheless, it gets something across. I haven't done this in a while anyway. All right. Oh, come on. Computers in the year 2022 are so primitive compared to the 1990s. It's amazing. They're just junk. They really are. The thing is, and the person who's laughing at me or something for saying something like that, right, has no idea. For example, I just put the thing in the wrong place. Where the hell is the thing? Right. All right. I apologize for the time taken to do that. Oh, man. That's not what I wanted to show you. That was the weather from yesterday. Or 2 days ago. The whole reason I went about this thing. My back's still killing me, man. I fucked it up. Big time. All right. So this actually is, just for the sake of it, I mean, just to play games.
The Weather Watch forecast.
Actually, this is what it looks like out there now in the former United States. And so you can see that cold air coming down from the north. You see that? And a little bit of spin over in the Pacific Northwest. But you can see the Canadian air coming down. And it's coming down from the Midwest, and it's heading over through the Ohio Valley towards the mid-Atlantic states and then up into New England. Right? Yet there seems to be a downward flow from Mexico into the Gulf. And Florida, speaking of Gulf, seems to be engulfed by something that's like kind of squeezing the state. You see that? It's almost like it's squeezing Florida. But the rest of the country looks pretty clear, but it's clear and cold. I noticed they had some frost warnings down in North Carolina and stuff like that. But anyway, the whole reason I brought this up, and like I said, I don't really like to do this anymore because I'm not the weatherman. I'm not a meteorologist. But the state lines that are drawn on this North American, plot of land, all right, these delineations of states, right? That's what I was trying to point out. And it's to the point where I forget even what the point was. I forget what I was even the point I was trying to make with that whole damn thing. That's how, This coffee's like pretty much strong and almost burnt. But there's something about it. It's kind of good like that. But it's getting cold. Carafe. Hopefully I could fit the rest of this in here without it overflowing. So it like warms up on my warmer. Anyway, so we have this, just to get, we'll figure this. It'll come back. So I was talking about, human existence and collecting things and, life. And I was talking about wars and delineation. That's what it was. And so the idea of this whole Ukrainian thing that they seem obsessed with, which is just the military-industrial complex, trying to sell material using young men and women as cannon fodder, right? And we have no business over there. And those lines were drawn, what I was trying to say, just like these state lines and stuff, were drawn by people, these lines drawn on a map over a continent. I mean, there are young kids and there's probably adults, like those ones I make fun of sometimes, like they get right? Now you think I'm not making fun of some mental person. No, I'm talking about guys on the street when you interview them. Why'd you go in that store and steal those Nikes? Or why'd you go in that store? No, yeah, it was okay? So don't make a mistake. No, I'm not making fun of somebody who has a mental problem. I'm talking about these people can't even speak fucking English, Spanish, whatever. French, anything. Okay? We've raised a class of people, they can't even talk. By all means, if somebody has a problem, mental problem, or a speech impediment or something like that, I'll do anything I can. I donate to all the charities I can afford to donate to, even if I just send them $1 or $5 if I have an extra few bucks. And I'm not trying. I don't get patted on the back, my sore back for that. So just don't twist my words. No, I mean that. See, that's a problem people have. You can't basically say that because people think you're being like some kind of bigoted person or you're being you're against somebody with a handicap. No. It's like, talk fucking English, man. Did you go to school? Talk fucking English. And you get people like that, you show them that map, they think that those lines that separate the states, they think they're actually drawn on there. These are like the flat earth frickin' people. Right? I've shown them pictures because like I said, I've covered expeditions for a pretty big part of my life. A lot of breakthrough technology I developed to do that. And I can tell you that, yeah, there is a continent of Antarctica, man. Right? And these people, it's a flat earth. And you've been down to Antarctica, so you can prove that? Oh, they won't even let it's a no-fly zone. It's not a no-fly zone. There's planes flying down there, drop off scientists, pick up people. Sometimes there's a medical emergency. They have ice runways. Instead of wheels, they have ice runways. I've got photographs of a prop plane and a jet landing in Antarctica on the continent on an ice runway. They have a road from McMurdo to the South Pole. An ice highway, more or less, almost. It's not, wouldn't exactly go super high speeds on it. But I mean, it's an ice road. But anyway, I know that destroys the seriousness, and if some philosopher type of individual would tune into this show to get to what I'm going to get to, I'm only halfway through the show, not even. That's a turnoff, and they would be like, "Oh, okay, I'm like, this guy's an idiot. This isn't what I thought it was going to be." No, it is what you thought it was going to be. Just stay tuned and deal with it, because you have to deal with reality, man. The world we live in. This isn't us sitting in two winged chairs in some, gentleman's club, in Oxford or Princeton, Harvard, sipping cognac or something. Come on, man. This is reality. This is the world we live in, where the majority of people, this is the former United States. Western civilization has fallen. All right? I'm a guy one of the few people who's actually truly telling people about the times that we live in. Because everyone else is not aware of this. They're watching, as I started to say before. And when I say there's people that you could listen to them talk and you can't even make out half the words coming out of their mouth because they're functionally illiterate. They're not, there's no sort of mental retardation there, okay? Which is, I guess someone might have a problem with the word like that. No, it's a real thing. Okay? No, they don't have some inability, right? Some handicap. No, these people are functionally illiterate who have gone through the school system. What does that say about the teachers and the teachers union? That some people graduate and they go like, and you ask them a question and they're like, well, I man. While they have a handful of crap that they, smashed and grabbed and looted, out of some store, ruining the livelihood of some poor person who had the franchise to that business. And basically, when it was all said and done, people have no idea about, like, people look, they could afford it, man. They got insurance. That guy's rich. I've seen his car. That guy has a car payment on that car, has car insurance on that car, and probably putting some kids through school. All right? And you know, someone could be bringing in $500,000 or $1 million gross revenue, and their take-home pay is barely enough just to pay the bills. That's what that doesn't understand, right? That's the world we live in today. The world is flat, right? We never went to the moon. Yeah, right. I'm telling you, man, look at I've got 3 views on my video. I did a video where I explained, where I basically showed some of the stuff that had to do with like just trying, because I got so pissed off about this Antarctica, because people were trying to pretend that the end of the world was Antarctica and there was no such continent. And I think I even showed pictures of the ice runway and a plane. And that video got a couple thousand views because people were like, because it said something about, is the earth flat, really flat or something. So the point of the matter is I get 3 views when I'm telling you the thing about reality, but some fantasy crazy stuff, right? Could get thousands of views. But anyway, back to this topic. So we deal with this hyperinflation, but we're still collecting things. And we're getting in debt. And we collect this stuff. So how does this, this is our existence, right? We collect provisions, right? We're basically factories. We take stuff in and we basically, excrete it out. Right? You boil your existence down to that simplistic thing. And so what you're doing is you're taking your purpose to exist, to create fertilizer for the trees. I once said that, against these people who were like the CO2 people. Oh my God, CO2. Yeah, 0.004 CO2. This planet is basically, we're not the primary life form on this planet. It's the trees and the plants, the flora. Okay? And we exist to provide fertilizer and CO2 for them. That's what we're here for. That's one way of looking at this, if you really wanted to. And so we don't want to deal with that ridiculously bizarre possibility that, come on, just go along with me on this for a second. This is a mental thing, Let your mind, open your mind and just think about this. Just for the sake of it. I'm not saying this is what I believe in, all right? We're on a journey, right, of the mind right now. But so we don't want to deal with the fact that we're not the primary life form on this planet, that it's the plants, the trees. Everywhere you look, anyone who's ever flown in a plane, all you see are two primary things. Trees, forests, all over the place, and oceans and water. That's what you see from the sky. You don't see people, unless you're getting close to landing and stuff, and then you could start to see like the cities and stuff. But at certain points, really the only thing you could see is forests and ocean. Right? Humans don't even appear as the size of ants. Right? We don't appear as anything. Humans are completely invisible. Right? From certain altitudes. Someone could fly by this planet, some spaceship. It's not here on any kind of mission or some probe. and could fly by and just look down and see and say, seems to be a water planet with some sort of growth on it. File that as a Class M planet as they move through the solar system onto the next. Right? But the idea is that, we exist to basically provide what if we exist to provide fertilizer and CO2 so that the trees and the plants can live? It's their planet. That's why I'm always annoyed by people who say, save the planet. The planet doesn't need saving. All right? No matter what we do. I mean, unless we had a nuclear war, right? Which, Biden and these guys are trying to do right now. I mean, it makes no sense trying to go to war with Russia, who has nuclear weapons, when we have nuclear weapons. See, that's the funny thing. That's like two guys with guns having a fist fight. It's like, just shoot the guy. Right? I mean, in the real world, it doesn't happen, Two guys have knives, or a guy's a knife. These people are in a fight. In the real world, what happens is somebody gets stabbed or shot. Right? Well, you don't, but the U.S. is going to enter a war with Russia. Both of us have nuclear weapons. And what? Take tanks over there? And shoot people with bullets? Just so the military-industrial complex can replace those missiles, those rounds, that materiel, and make billions and billions of dollars in taxpayer dollars, and our soldiers could come back without limbs and the pain, right, of having your leg blown off or your intestines flown halfway, I mean, think about it. That's the absurdity of what's going on right now. That's the guy who's in office. That's the generals. That's these guys. That's what they're doing. All right? It's like, you might as well just push the button and blow up Russia, okay? Why are you fucking around and torturing men and women in uniform who are going to come back, lives ruined, and then the ones that have to see their buddies this shit happen to, basically, drinking themselves into a stupor or taking drugs, then eventually killing themselves because suicide rate among, our brothers in arms is just out of control. And these generals and majors like that, the Elvis Costello song, or like listen to Ozzy Osbourne. Like I said, listen to Ozzy Osbourne, Paranoid album. War Pigs. Yeah, why don't you send Hunter Biden and Psaki and your daughter over there? Okay, put them on the front lines. And whoever that goofball is, because I don't watch the news in that depth anymore. I don't care who the players are, but that goofball who's pushing the war, whatever his fucking name is. I don't care. It doesn't matter. He's a jackal. And like that General Miley, whatever his name is, the guy who called the communist Chinese and said, don't worry, I'll call you first before we do anything. I'm a fucking traitor. But I'm still here. Because the people I work for are fucking morons. And they're traitors too. I say give that little slip of land. It's a tiny little slither of land on eastern Ukraine that is Russia. Let those Russians be part of Russia. They want to be Russians. They are Russians. Let them have it. and get the fuck out of there and don't kill any frickin' Americans because of it. And have them come back maimed or in caskets. Or so messed up in the head that they're going to fucking take their lives. For what? You know, there's no human, in other words, there's nothing going on there that we have to be involved with. You see? You know, there's no humanitarian crisis there. This is a delineation. That's why I brought up that stupid weather map. These are lines drawn. These are generals and majors playing games, man. Military-industrial complex hasn't, because of, they got rid of these weapons up in Afghanistan, and they haven't, and there's been like kind of too much time has passed when they haven't had their sales figures high enough that they're, and they've already sent stuff over there. So their shareholders and their board of directors are going, hey, man, come on. We need to sell some fucking missiles, some fucking tanks, some trucks, some of this tech stuff that we've been developing, We need to send a bill to the government for at least, a couple of $100 billion this quarter, for crying out loud, man. We're $1 trillion companies. We can't exist. We can't go a year without a war. All right? And then the people and the politicians, they all look at it and go, you understand there's jobs at stake here. People who don't understand war, it's really sad. I once alluded to this, I think. I don't know when I did. Maybe I didn't in one of my videos. Once I was drinking with two snipers, U.S. snipers, our guys, good guys, okay? Soldiers, American soldiers, good American, honest, 100% loyal American soldiers. Okay, two guys. We're shooting pool. We're talking. And one of the guys says to me, he goes, let's do some shots. And I said, I'll get them. And so I got us some shots, and we were drinking heavy drinking. I was like, I could drink heavily, a few years back without a problem, without getting weird or anything like that. I wasn't one of those people. These guys weren't either. And so we're down in these shots and shooting pool and just like, talking. And one guy just says in passing, we were talking about war and, and all that kind of stuff. Horrors of war type of thing, but just, not in some weird way. One of the guys says to me, we all have confirmed kills. That's why we're here. That's why we're drinking, as we all down the shot. We all have confirmed kills. That's why we're here. That's why we're drinking. Hey, Pasaki, hey, Pasaki, do you understand? Do you have confirmed kills? Do you know what that's like? Hey, Joe Biden. They don't understand war. They haven't watched their buddies be blown to bits. try to hold somebody's stomach together. You see what I mean? But they're watchers. They're watching. Life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. You know, and you could take that, you know, and you could replace that with war. You know, wars full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Joe Biden is an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Right? There's no humanitarian crisis going on in eastern Ukraine. There are Russian people who don't want to be a part of the corrupt Ukraine. Okay? And Biden is just paying back Ukraine for the millions he and his son got out of there. But that's not what this show is about. This is Existence Part 2. But that's part of existence. War. Right? Like that song. What's it good for? Absolutely nothing. Okay? You know, the idea is that if there's an injustice, if there's something, you know, one of the things the federal government has the power to wage war for the common defense of the United States of America. Ukraine is not part of the United States of America. All right? Ukraine is not part of the EU, even. Okay? There has been no attack on the United States, all right? Ukraine has nothing to offer us except, of course, you know, the good old-fashioned oil, right? That oil company there comes back. So they found a new place for oil. You know, the price of oil is like $80 a barrel, something like that. Might be going up higher. Yeah. Suddenly wars for oil are making sense again. But let's get back to being these factories. So we created this entire mystique around all of our lives, right? Because we're basically providing fertilizer and CO2 for the primary life form on this planet, which is basically the flora. In other words, the trees and the flowers and stuff like that have a network of communications and sophistication through fungi underground that, for all we know, are almost as, you know, that there's a thing called Gaia and it's intelligent, you know, though people don't want to go to that metaphysical concept, right? The planet Earth as being, you know, a living thing. But it is alive. I mean, what are we? A collection of trillions of cells working in unison to like somehow have this form and do these things? All right? Why couldn't the planet Earth be that way? You know, like I said before, what about stars, you know? Maybe the whole concept, you know, of the afterlife is that you become a star. Wasn't that like one of the lines in one of the sci-fi guys? Like I say, I always get Clark confused sometimes, you know. But I think it might have been an Arthur C. Clarke line that for every person that you know, so many hundreds of billions of people have lived on the planet, you know, life, you know, that there are approximately so many billions of stars, you know, the coincidence of like, for every person that's ever lived, there's a star. So maybe we're star, you know. And then it was that concept of star child. I think that was 2001. You had to read the book. It wasn't in the movie. But, you know, I'm just talking. You know, this is just mental exercises, you know, just ideas, just things just to get your mind thinking outside of, you know, of watching Ozark, okay? Or watching the news or watching these wars. You see? Because basically, yeah, it's all a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. Why are you getting caught up in it? That's the question. And what's the purpose of your existence? You know, why do you exist? Or what do you want the purpose of your existence to be? Put it that way. I mean, you know, when you're gone, and you will be gone, you don't live that long. Life expectancy for humans in the U.S. has dropped by almost 2 years in the past couple of years. And it wasn't because of that thing that guy with the F created along with his buddies that sell fucking, you know, big pharma making money. See, big pharma's like got their couple years of hundreds of billions of dollars in, so now it's moved back to the military industrial complex. It's their turn to rake in big bucks. Big media rakes in bucks no matter what it is because they rake in big bucks on pandemics and wars, right? Either way. And big tech makes money either way on all that stuff because they're selling that stuff to big, you know. And big ag just keeps feeding us this crap, and it's taking years off of our life expectancy. And there are assholes out there that go, well, years ago, people only lived to be 30-some years old. I hear another idiot say something like that. I've heard that from scientists, physicists, biologists. It's like, fuck you, you fucking idiot, man. Did you go to fucking college? Did you read a fucking textbook? You know? People lived to be 100 years old thousands of years ago. People lived to be old thousands of years ago. Hundreds of years ago. The only reason the average age was low during certain periods of time in the past was during war times. When you had lower populations on the planet, all right, and you had millions, you know, of people dying in a war, in the aggregate, that brings the average age down. And to hear somebody who's supposedly a scientist, in quotes, right, to say that line like as if it's like, no. According to the CDC's website, you can go to it right now. I'm not going to go to it. I already did online here a week or two ago. The life expectancy of a human being in the United States of America, or the former United States as I call it, has dropped by 1.8 years, almost 2 years, you know, and that was like the latest up to like 2020. And that was before, that's prior to the statistics of this stupid thing, which wouldn't have affected anyway, because like I said, 99.6% of Americans did not die and will not die from this thing. That's also according to the CDC. Right? Figures lie and liars figure. So they use numbers and they make the numbers look big. right? So the news media, this thing you're looking at on the screen here, right over there. The news media. When you turn on Fox News or MSNBC or CNN or ABC or PBS, it's a tale told by an idiot filled with sound and fury, signifying nothing. All right? Whatever's pablum is spewing out of their mouths. Right? And you're watching it because you're a watcher. I like to watch. Right? You're a watcher. Is that what life has become in the 21st century? We watch Netflix, we watch Amazon Prime, we watch HBO Max, we watch Hulu, we watch the shows on our Roku box. We watch the cable news networks. We watch the major mainstream networks, allegedly, whatever the hell they call them now. Mainstream, lamestream. We watch YouTube. We watch. And then we watch wars. But unlike in the Vietnam War, where it really pissed people off, where war was brought to people's television screens, they don't show the people being blown to bits. They don't show pieces of intestines being hanging out of a guy's stomach. Right? They don't show a dismembered arm. Right? You hear about somebody getting their brains blown out, but they won't show you what that looks like. It's not a pretty sight. It's a sight you can't get out of your mind. We have this watcher society. We're watching. I want to watch more stuff. There's nothing to watch. I need more things to watch. I don't care what it is. It's all a video game anyway. Right? Shoot 'em up, first person shooter. Oh, wait, we're going to create the metaverse. Then we can get in there ourselves and, shoot 'em up and be in there and be a part of it. Be like a watcher and a participant at the same time. It's crazy, man. It's fucking crazy.
This is insane.
Yeah.
This is a nightmare. Must be a nightmare.
Not must be. It is one.
Oh, no.
It is one. Must be a nightmare. It's all a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Did you hear that? That was a belch. What do we do when a guy belches on this show?
Really funny. Really funny.
Yeah. So, I'll go back to the original first thing I said on this show. Existence Part 2, Sound and Fury. What is it exactly that you think you are doing here or there or anywhere? Right? What is it? Are you a fertilizer factory, collecting things until you die, and then those things are just dispersed among whomever. Is that it? Is it all is life about just playing as they take years off our life each year? We become sicker and sicker too. See, that's the other thing. Life expectancy's not only dropped, but we've got all these illnesses. What is it? 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5 men get prostate cancer now, right? It's the second leading cause of death in the United States. 600 some thousand people die every year from cancer. The leading cause of death in the United States, right, is and still has been heart disease, right? The vast majority of heart disease is basically caused by Big Ag, the FDA, and Big Pharma, right? And I guess you could throw the CDC in there too. These so-called people who are in charge of health, right? They pretend that they march out there and they pretend they're like they care for our health. But 650 some thousand plus people die every frickin' year and have died every frickin' year from heart disease. You don't have to die from heart disease. It has to do with the food and drugs that you consume and and the things in the environment that they put there. And it's not CO2 or methane, right? It's things approved, right? And then you've got the second leading cause of death being cancer. And that's caused by things that they still sell on the market. I went to the store. I was at Walmart yesterday. And on the bottom shelf was, I'm not going to name the brand of it, but was one of these weed killer or bug killers. No, I think it was a bug killer, a particular bug killer. But there's a weed killer too. They're still on the shelves that have been proven to cause cancer. And my psychotic neighbor, the witch, this evil woman, I believe that she basically sprayed that against my fence towards my plants and stuff, and that's why I developed cancer and I've half these health problems I have. Right? Gets into the soil, my plants suck it up, it rains, the flow of rain, her, drain pipes push the water from her lawn, her backyard towards my house. Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day, I was thinking about trying to get some, 3-foot, metal, corrugated metal or some kind of something that, would last for years and pound that into the ground like 3 feet. To divert anything coming from my neighbor's yard underground, just away from my garden, which is my livelihood and my life. People are afraid of like plants, afraid of weeds. I said before, the only reason you get dandelions, it's because of deficiency in the soil, and the leaves of the dandelions, when they decay, they fill that void and take care of that problem. That's the purpose. They actually have a purpose in life. People don't understand like the ecosystem and how it's like the cycle of life and how everything's interconnected and things take care of themselves. We don't need human intervention. We don't need human intervention in Ukraine, and we don't need human intervention in our backyards. We don't need GMO fucking crops. All right? Things grow. I mean, look at my yard. You know, I grow enough food to feed. I'm only one person. I give my food away to whoever. Most of it ends up in a compost pile. I give as much away as I can. I really do. But it comes to the point where there's like no one else to give it to. Right? And it ends up ends up in the compost pile. They don't encourage people to do that. You know, if you wanted to, this is how sick it is. That I said this before, and this isn't a show about gardening, but why not? If you have a window that has sun in it and you just put, screw a 10 or 12 inch like shelving board in that window so you could put a couple potted, decent sized pots, it got to be something that you can get decent sized root in. And you plant one of them, you put in like lettuce or chard or kale. And another one, you put in like a couple of different herbs, say, healthy herbs. Another one, you might put the most famous, what everybody likes is tomatoes. And say another one, you put in something else that you just happen to personally like. 4 or 5 things in a window that gets sun. It's inside your house. Hell, you can grow it in the wintertime if it's inside your frickin' house. You could have fresh salads all summer long. For half the year, you could feed yourself just from your frickin' window. And all you do is plant a seed. Oh, by the way, one thing that the Dollar Tree did still have, and I bought them yesterday. I should have kept them out here. Seed packs. 4 for $1. I bought a summer squash. I bought regular squash. I bought chard. And what was the other one? Something else that I grow every year. Just for the hell of it. For $1. I bought 4 seed packs. You only need really one seed to take to get a plant. Like in the instance of summer squash or squash, one seed takes, and out of a seed pack, you'll get guaranteed at least one of the seeds is going to take. Right? They all don't take. It's just the nature of the thing. But one seed in the course of the summer, you get so much squash. One summer I had so much squash. I went over to the doctor's office and there's like 6 people over there, and that squashes were like this big or something, giant. And I just gave this garbage bag of like 6 or 7 of them. I said, here, give, everybody take one home. Went across the street to the hardware store, gave the lady a couple. Bushels of tomatoes and shit. From a seed. From a frickin' seed. 4 seed packs, 4 different kinds of vegetables for $1. $1. You just put it in the ground and it grows. The first year I was here, I actually had one of the best gardens I ever had. I didn't even buy any soil. Because like I said, I didn't come from that kind of background. I'm a radio station general manager, a talent manager, a Hollywood producer, a publisher, a production supervisor, a creative director for an advertising agency. You understand? Impresario, musician, right? Producer. My background has nothing to do with growing stuff, and I didn't grow up in a family that grew anything. I had a yard, and I got some seeds. I put them in the ground, and I had all this food. And so I decided, hey, there's something to this thing, man. And this stuff tastes really, really good. Right? Better than that stuff you buy in the store. You buy a tomato in the store, it doesn't taste like anything sometimes. Right? And I got these tomatoes, and you just bite into them, and it's like this mouth flavor or explosion of like, whoa, this is delicious, man. You could just eat it as is. Maybe put a slap of mayo on it or something. But anyway, we could grow food anywhere. Plants are the natural life forms of this planet. We're not. We're not. We don't even fit in here, but that's a story of, who knows what. The missing link and all that stuff, We don't even know what we are, what we're even doing here. Right? Who knows? I mean, there's so many theories and ideas and woo-woo stuff about that. I'm not going to get into it, but we don't need GMO this or GMO that to feed the world. There's so much land, right? It seems almost cliche or something. People talk about starving children in Africa and stuff. There's so much fertile land there. It's unbelievable. And then they get on the case of the people down in the Amazon region, for opening up certain forest areas, to turn into farming land so that they could have food and stuff. And the funny thing is, these people that criticize that and say, oh, it's the lungs of the earth. It's like, they got private jets. They've flown around. They know that the planet has trees everywhere. And like I showed on this show probably a month or so ago, the Amazon forest is endless. You can't, as far as the eye can see. All right? It's, there. It would be like someone... there'd be this giant mansion, right? Somewhere. Okay? And someone picked a paint chip off of, a little corner by the ground. That's the lie that the UN, IPCC, Greta, and these people that just met in Scotland and these Paris Accord type of people are telling you. That's the line of crap they're fucking feeding you. It's like the CO2 thing. Like I said yesterday, and I'll say it again today. 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. 21% of the atmosphere is oxygen. 0.9% of the atmosphere is argon. That means that 99.9% of the Earth's atmosphere is nitrogen, oxygen, and argon. That only leaves 0.1%, not 1%, 0.1%. Okay? Now, out of that 0.1%, there are trace gases. Okay? They're just trace gases, 0.1%. And of those trace gases, that's where you have 0.004 CO2, methane, water vapor, and these other little trace gases. Does Greta know that? No. They use like terms, they'll say 4 parts per million or something like this is. What the fuck are you talking about, man? It's as bad as these people saying 800,000. Oh, it looks like 1 million people might die of this thing. Yeah. Well, in the United States, where you have 330 million people, 1 million people is less than 1/3 of 1% of the people, meaning 99.6% of the people didn't die and won't die from it. I'd say this is pretty good odds, right? Because I find myself even, because I don't watch the news, but I find myself even yesterday when I went out being paranoid to go into Walmart, right? And I'm wiping down my cart with these useless wipes and stuff, right? And I'm like, but in the back of my mind, I'm like paranoid. But then when I finally come home, and I think about it, I'm going, the odds of anything happening to me, are so low. I'm more likely to win the lottery, than die of that thing, right? I'm more likely to win the frickin' lottery or, get bit by a shark or something like that. Something ridiculously insane. I mean, maybe not the shark bite thing, but struck by lightning perhaps in certain areas. But they got us all messed up in the head, man, and that's their game. And that's another tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. And we know who that idiot is, by the way, right? Who's telling us that? There's one guy, right? There's one guy, the face of this thing, who's telling us this tale full of sound and fury signifying fucking nothing. So you got to think about your existence. So this is a totally different way, from part 2, from that more serious way of looking. And it was really kind of thought-provoking, I thought. And I advise you to go back to that if you made it this far. If I didn't turn you off earlier when I was talking about a piss and shit factory, humans being piss and shit factories. I mean, I'm sorry, it's hardcore. It's just crude and rude in a sense. But, it's the reality, and, this show really...
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
I mean, that's the way it's always been. But you got to, contemplate your existence, contemplate your life. Contemplate what your likes and dislikes are, what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy. And realize, are you going to be an armchair general and watch these people blow our brothers and sisters' arms and brains and guts out over some foreign country that there is no humanitarian crisis in, that has to do with either some promise made because of somebody getting somebody's son off of some dirty deal that dealt with an oil company or something weird like that, or some problem, using, this obsession with Russia. Meanwhile, China has gulags, assassinations, is selling people's organs, communist China. And, forget that. Elon Musk has factories over there, and Wall Street's invested there, and they own so much real estate and have such a, that so much of the United States. They own the entertainment and half the news industry and stuff. So, they're allowed to have gulags and kill people and sell organs and have slave labor and stuff like that. There's a real humanitarian crisis going over there. We abandoned Hong Kong. We just let them take freedom away from Hong Kong. Right? We don't care about that. Nobody even talks about Venezuela or any of that stuff anymore. Right? Stuff going on in Africa. People have no idea. South Africa is hardly on the radar anymore. Right? I mean, all you hear right now are two things. There's pandemic, and now it's Russia. Because they're trying to, phase into that thing. They want to sell the rest of this stockpile of big pharmas, so they could reach their, quarter over quarter, year over year profit goals for their shareholders. And as soon as they reach that, right? That's why there's a big push on right now. And as soon as that's reached, then they switch into the military industrial complex because their shareholders are getting really pissed at them and saying, hey, man, you got to start selling some weapons and materiel and get our profits back up to a point where our stock values are worth something, and screw those, young men and women, patriots, who think they're patriots. I mean, they are patriots because they're doing their duty, but they don't understand that they're fighting for not the United States of America. They're fighting for military contractors and Wall Street. Right? I mean, is Wall Street worth dying for? Some trader on Wall Street? The value of a stock? Tell my wife and kids I love them, but I had to die for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I had to do my duty for Wall Street. Think about that for a second. Tell my mom I died to serve the Wall Street gods. I still say to this day, put the generals, the presidents, the cabinets, and anybody involved in having the war, making a war, put them on the front line. Let them be the first into battle. If you want to make war, then you go fight war. Like in the old days when the king would lead the charge, right? Or the generals would be there in the front lines, leading it. Okay? Enough of this nonsense, sending over young people who believe they're doing their patriotic duty, but the fact of the matter is they're fighting for Wall Street, not us. There is nothing in Ukraine that is making the United States safer. In fact, going to Ukraine is making the United States less safe. And every time we've gone into these freaking fucking wars for oil, or these lines drawn in the sand, we've made the U.S. less safe. We've made the military-industrial complex richer, right? And we've lost blood and treasure, which in human terms means young men and women died for Wall Street, for a price, a stock price to go up. Nothing to do with saving us. Oh, they make there's a good line out there, to make it sound like they're fighting for freedom. And, but it's a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. Our existence has nothing to do with waging wars. Our existence has nothing to do with using frickin' organic fossil fuels. We're ruining landscapes by putting up these big white fans all over the place, destroying open land that could be growing crops or could be utilized for other things, and putting solar fucking panels on them. There's nothing more organic than oil. Christ. I'm telling you, man. It's so crazy. You know what I mean? It is just so fucking crazy what's going on. And it's like I sit here and I say this stuff, and because, I get off color with certain things or I get graphic into detail on stuff, it's like, I get nobody watching this show and and it's hidden and all that crap. And, what really pisses me off more than anything else, more than the politicians themselves, because I haven't popped this one up today. All these marionettes, the media and the politicians are just marionettes. And you're that, and then if you like follow politicians, donate to politicians, or watch the media, you're that girl in the black jumpsuit or whatever the hell it is, because you're a puppet of a puppet, a marionette of a marionette. Because all you're doing is being suckered to this tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. And there is nobody, none of these people, people talk, like even this Joe Rogan guy and stuff, right? It has this audience. But he's non-committal. Don't elevate Joe Rogan to some kind of high level of like whatever, as if he's defending freedom of speech or something like that. He's not coming out like this. Because he's non-committal. He's an interviewer. He's the Oprah. He's the Oprah for guys, they say. Right? Besides, half the time he's talking about fighting stuff and, DMT and taking gummies and, weird stuff. Right? He's not coming out taking a stance. Because he knows he can't. And if he did, they'd basically get rid of him, because if they can't get Spotify to take him off, if he were to take a stance and say, he's one of the most powerful guys out there now, voice-wise, right? Well, if he were to come out and take a stance and say, hey, this Ukraine thing is ridiculous. They're Russians, and Russia has... those guys have a right. If they want to be Russians, they could, let it be Russia. It's a slither. Oh, they're not taking over Ukraine. This is the Russian, Eastern Ukraine is Russia. Okay? Remember, it was a Soviet Union at one time. They were all fucking Russians. All right? They were all fucking Russians, even the whole Ukraine. All right? It's none of our fucking business to begin with. But if this small slither of land on the eastern part where all these Russians live who want to be part of their home country, like Crimea did, let them be. And if Rogan would come out and say, people like that would have the balls to come out and say that kind of stuff. But see, like I said yesterday, when guys like the Kennedys came out and spoke the truth, what happened to them? And Martin Luther King wasn't killed because he was a civil rights leader. He was killed because he started to speak anti-war, and the military-industrial complex offed him because it was the CIA that killed the Kennedys. That's not me talking. I heard Robert Kennedy Jr. say that. Go watch the Mike Tyson's vlog podcast of about a week or two ago, or whenever it was. Just look when he had Robert Kennedy Jr. on his show. See, Rogan put him on. Ask him that question. See, only a guy like Tyson could do that. Mike Tyson's a smart guy. You got to he's another one of those guys that people just don't have the proper respect for. He's a very intelligent man. Anyway, my back's fucking killing me. And I don't really want to get into an argument, so, Good morning. All I'm telling you to do is buy my 2 books, Then What and Codex. All right? The print versions of them. They're on Amazon. Just get them. Buy them. All right? Buy the fucking books. Read them and then give them to somebody else. Go to Great Solar Stuff. There's some stuff there. It's going to be a cold frickin' winter, man. Your power's going to go out, and you're going to freeze your balls off. Get some stuff. I have some things there that'll take care of that. All right? And buy my gear. You see that girl there with the game over? You could get any of my sayings like, you don't know what you don't know, and everything you know is wrong, and all that stuff. They're all available on there. Or you can get a hoodie, a shirt, T-shirt, or a bag with the ROCKFLUX logo on it, for crying out loud. All right? Support the site. That's how I know you support the site. All right? Let me know. I'll talk to you tomorrow.